The following podcast contains adult themes and adult language. Listener discretion advised.
And although we joke, if you or someone you know is affected by or a victim of domestic violence, dial 1-800-799-7233 or visit the National Domestic Violence Hotline's website, thehotline.org.
But it's always the husband, it's always the husband, it's always the husband, how can it be?
Hey everybody, it's Sarah.
Hi, this is Megan.
And you're listening to It's Always the Husband podcast.
Welcome.
Soon to have an Always the Husband TV show. I said podcast like we have other...
Yeah.
Like we
there's
have
other things?
8-track tape. Maybe.
My mom and dad's motorhome had an 8-track.
Yeah, the Bonneville I took my driver's test in. Did.
Really?
Yeah.
And you shoved it in the console
I did, and
thing?
I put Conway Twitty in
I
and
was
said,
gonna
let's
say,
go.
I think we had Waylon Jennings. I think that was what we had on 8-track. It was like...
And the guy said, you fail. And I said, well, all right.
Hello, darling.
Yep.
Nice to see you. It's been a long time.
When I ran over all those pedestrians that did me in. Well, should we get started? Do you have a glitter in your shitter?
I do. Hey, everyone. Welcome. This is a true crime podcast, and we tell the story of some fucked up shit. We also like to, because we have a miserable life, we're menopausal, mid-aged women.
Correct.
Once in a while, we find something that brings us a glitter in our shitter.
Mm-hmm.
This week, mine is a cult classic.
Oh.
Okay.
Yes.
I've read about this for years because, you know, we love the beauty and the right, like we're obsessed with our what's in our Instagram feed, and
you
we're
bought
trying
some
all the
Gina
things. You guys, Gina Tay is it? That's my glitter. No, I'm just joking. But this is as old as Gina Tay.
Oh, Charlie?
It is Clinique's Black Honey lipstick.
Oh, I don't know if I'm aware.
Oh my God. So I've seen it forever, right? Everyone's talking about this lipstick that like kind of changes tint, like it just looks good on everyone, whatever.
That's
and
good.
when you pull off the cap, it looks black, which is why I think it's called
probably
Black Honey. But when you put it on your lips, it's a fucking kiss from the gods.
And so you love it?
I love it.
What is it? Color is it like on your lips?
I don't know.
Like a peach or a pink or
let me
red?
show you. While you tell me yours, I'll get it out of my purse.
What if it stays black on people?
It doesn't. I'll let you try it after I try it. Okay.
Mine is the TV show 1923.
Oh my God.
So I started it. No, season 2 just started. And I'm still on season 1.
This is the one with
Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. And Brandon Sklar.
That guy's hot.
He is, but it is black. He got himself in some trouble by piping in on the Blake Lively situation. So he's backpedaling a bit.
I can't even give a fuck about Blake Lively or Justin Baldoni.
But I'm only 3 episodes in because I only allow myself to watch when I get on the treadmill. So I'm severely slow going.
Yeah.
But the first episode, you have to, just like Yellowstone, you have to continue on.
Really?
Well, yeah, the first one
I tried to watch the Tim McGraw one.
I didn't care for it.
What one was that?
1888, I think.
Oh.
I just couldn't get into that one. But this one, right away, I was like, done.
Okay.
I love it. So I have to get, at least I know, like, now I can, the second season will be some episodes, so I don't have to wait and wait and wait. But it's really good, I think. I don't know. I like it. And the people are attractive on it. And I'm not sure I'm into a 800-year-old Harrison Ford, since mine is I love Han Solo.
Right.
And I just don't like a 800-year-old Han Solo or Indiana Jones. But
you prefer him frozen.
I prefer him frozen
and Jabba the Hutt's wall.
And young. But I still like a Han Solo. I still like a Harrison Ford.
Okay.
So I think it's
love
great.
a silver fox. So
I mean, this is a fox with 2 feet in the grave.
Okay, watch me put on black honey. You guys, it's black.
All right, okay. I'm watching.
She saw it, right?
Like I saw it. It's,
like,
yes.
Oh, this is black.
It looks like a stick of beef jerky. And she's putting it on. Yeah, it does not go on black. It goes on. Oh, yeah, it's like a light red.
But it looks good with my coloring.
Yes, it totally does.
It's not. And
it looks perfect. It's like a mauve.
Yeah,
I don't know how to describe the color. It's like goes perfectly with your. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. I like it a lot.
Okay, black honey. There's also a gloss. I got the literal like this is the cult classic. This is it. They don't even make any other lipsticks like this besides the black honey. It's like in this long silver tube.
Yeah.
It's very moisturizing. But they also have a black honey gloss that I think I might get now that I tried this. Like I've had my eye on it for several years, but I used to wear Clinique Mica was the color.
I've heard of that because I remember kids talking. I remember
that was in college, right? And that was when everyone wore really dark.
Yeah, because everyone was an emo,
right,
or such.
I wore flannels and then mica lipstick, but this.
Oh, it is a perfect color.
And apparently it looks good on everyone. Yeah. So
well, I'll be the one.
Okay, you put it on
distractor.
You. Then we're gonna put pictures of us with black honey on, and you can decide. You can get it at Ulta. I got mine at Ulta. I got it at Target. The Ulta in Target.
I'll have to try it.
Here.
Well, I'll do it when
at
the end or whatever.
Okay.
All right. We do have new Patreons, too. I should just say before I forget. And I didn't check the amount, so God, I don't think there's a Momoa. Well, I'll check again. But Melissa T, thank you.
Melissa.
And Tara Couchman, thank you.
Tara.
And Gabrielle Descharzor, or Descharzor, Deschazor,
I'm sorry.
Hazor.
I'm sorry.
Shazor. Gabriella. Or Gabrielle. It's an E at the end. Gabrielle.
Okay, Gabby, can you please tell us what the fuck Sarah's trying to say?
Her elegant last name.
Please make it better. And
thank you
for us. Thank you all.
Ladies, thank you so much.
I said, here is something that husbands do, everyone. I got a message from a listener, and her name was Holly Jacobson. And she was concerned because she hadn't heard her shout out. And she was like, my husband bought me a fucking Patreon for Christmas.
Oh, how sweet.
And I was like, aw. And she said, but you didn't say my name. So like, what's going on?
I thought, well,
Can you look into
maybe forgot some.
Right.
But...
And we've been known to fuck up before. Yeah. So Sarah looked it up, and fucking Holly's husband bought her a quote unquote free Patreon membership.
Right. And I told Megan, I said, I don't read the frees. Because there's 1,000 of them. People can go in for free, but you don't get the...
We don't understand what a free Patreon is, but
you don't get the episodes, but you can get some digital stuff.
Right. And Holly was like, oh my God, my husband like literally did something 2 weeks before Christmas, actually thought of me.
Yeah.
And this is what happened. So Holly,
you got a free shout out.
No, it is free, but we know that he really did try to pay it because she did email me back and she said they took money out of their account in December.
Well, why does it say that?
But it hasn't come out since then. So I don't know what happened.
Oh my God.
They
have to talk to Patreon because we don't do anything. I mean,
no, that's what I said, Holly, I am so sorry. Please have your husband contact Patreon customer service because we don't have anything to do with it. But also, I'm going to give you the biggest shout out because your husband fucked it up and you tried so hard to be our biggest patron. She wanted to be a John Hamm. She wanted the Hamaconda.
That's a good one.
And he got her free.
He got her free.
So, Holly, we love you and thank you for listening. And here's your shout out.
Well, she suffered through a typical husband. This is the way to do it. She did it the way it typically should be done.
It's always the husband. Yeah. He fucked this up for you.
Well, what's new?
I don't know.
Poor Holly.
Nothing's new. Poor Holly and poor everyone who has a husband.
I know. Poor Holly.
We also have a Facebook group. It's called It's Always the Husband Podcast Group. We like to pick some funny shit that comes up. Last week was a little rough on our podcast group. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah. I do agree.
We have a strict no politics policy.
We do. Because it's just, let's leave that aside. Life is hard enough if you're married to whatever.
If you're
alive,
married, life is hard enough
to put on your pants in the morning and go to a job. Life is hard enough to put on your pants in the morning and stay at home.
You're right.
Take care of your kids if you're at home.
You're right.
Or just to stay at home and try to live through the day.
You're right. And
trying to open up a can of corn to put into your crock pot is hard.
It's hard sometimes. We had some friends who posted and some other friends were not so nice to that person. And I've been trying to come up with a response, so I'm just going to say it out loud. I was trying to come up with like an eloquent post that was just like, hey, this is just me talking to you about this. But so for one, if you're on our Facebook group, don't be political because we both have our own political affiliations and we have our own political beliefs and we try really hard not to bring them into what we're talking about because it's polarizing.
Yeah.
Right?
It is.
And we also have many members of our Facebook group. I mean, I don't know how many members we have in the group. There's 1.9 thousand members. So we can't all be...
I'm surprised we did that math.
I just looked right now.
I know that we didn't say some weird number.
There's 19... There's a 1.929 milliliters of members. We're not all the same political affiliation or the same religion or the same ethnicity. We're not. But I'm going to put my foot down. I'm going to say... There's no fucking taking another human being down on our page. I'm just going to say it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the one thing we all have in common is that we're human beings. And I have friends who are like-minded, who think politically and I don't know, maybe philosophically like me, but I also have friends that are in a different political group than I am and believe a different way than me. And I'm actually proud of myself that I can like sometimes get past that and just be like, because it's hard on both sides. But one thing I will not tolerate is being a dick to another human being.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're on our page, and I'm inviting you all now to, join It's Always the Husband podcast group. We don't discriminate.
No, we just want it to be a safe space where you can talk about
dick pics that you accidentally get in your algorithm because of liking our podcast.
And your Timo penis clamps.
That's it. if somebody writes something about themselves or who they are
or advice
who
about
they
themselves,
love,
if you want to comment on
then either
giving
be
them advice
supportive
or just skip by
fucking
that
scroll
way.
Scroll by.
Or if you want to comment on the podcast or whatever, that's fine. That's what it's for. Yeah.
Comment. There are people in this podcast group that I know didn't vote the same way I did, and I love them. I like them. They come to book club. They're my friends in real Facebook, and they're my friends in the Facebook podcast group, and I met them through the podcast, and that's amazing. And I love that. But just please don't be a fucking dick on our podcast group page. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. You word things better than I do. You words mouth better me.
I don't know if I do.
You do.
Just, we're all human beings. If you don't like it or you don't agree with it, then scroll or leave.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not a place to hurt someone else because of who they are.
Just hurt our eyes with bleach with crocheted dicks.
If there's a baby made of buttons, and you think that's fucked up, you put that on our page.
Yeah. A cactus
that looks like a dick.
Mm-hmm.
You put it on our page. And the one that I'm going to pick this week is from Amy Dalla, because there's a literal sign that you can put. Apparently it goes on top of your counter. I'm assuming it was maybe for dishes or laundry.
Or on your bed.
I don't know, but it just says dirty.
I bet the other side says clean.
I bet.
But then you always have the dirty showing. Because you put it on your toilet.
That's who we are. We are dirty. Yeah. And you guys, this sign was $1.
I would almost buy that for $1, but I would try to say, how about a little less than $1?
I sure would. $1.
Mine
what was yours?
I liked Tina Westberg put a little sign, or just a little, it was a saying that says, if penis size was as obvious as boob size, there would be a hell of a lot less men talking shit. And that's the truth, I think.
It is the truth.
Jamie would not have a lot to say.
Someone also Tammy Smart put the second most toxic land animal on the planet was literally in a washing machine.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
A snake?
It was a fucking snake.
Oh.
And it's in someone's washing machine.
Mm-mm.
And I would...
Was it in their pants?
Literally
shit. They put the pants in there?
Well, right now it looks like
Why does the snake say, hey, I'm going to go in a washing machine? That's a dumbass snake.
It sure is. And then Laura Park, again, this is in Australia, right?
Of course.
Like,
well,
this is where...
And they're a hardy people.
We love Australia. We think you're super hot. We think Australia is beautiful. We wish we had marsupials, but we do not wish we had this. And then Laura Park wrote, my son was bitten by one of these while taking a drink from the water fountain at his deodorant factory.
Oh, shit.
That was a fun day for all involved. Why? Why are there snakes in a school?
Well, yeah, we've had snakes in my deodorant factory.
Yeah, but they're garter snakes that have nothing.
Yeah.
In them.
Yeah.
I don't understand this. This was an eastern brown snake hatchling.
Gross.
In a Maudslin residence.
Well, I mean.
Washing machine.
Ish.
If this is the second most toxic land animal, what's the first
I don't
toxic?
know. A snake? I mean, a spider?
What is the first?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to look it up. Carry on.
All right. So our story we watched, since it's been cold as balls.
It was so cold here. We literally could not function.
No, you just would have died going outside.
And today it was gorgeous.
What's weird, like a 70-degree switch.
Yeah.
So we watched a show. It's on Hulu, or was it Peacock?
No, it was on Investigation.
Oh, Investigation Discovery. That's right. Because I was trying. Yeah. Peacock has some new ones. I was trying to find. It's called ice cold killers.
Yeah.
So people that kill in the cold. So these men might have significant shrinkage of their wang. That would make them angry.
And make them
kill.
Prone to killing.
Yeah, when the shrinkage.
Yeah.
So this is season 5, episode 3, called "Chilled to the Bone." Well,
I was chilled just watching it.
This was a rough one. So it's in Ohio, town of Camion. They say it's a 1-horse town, and I think there's a lot of 1-horse town. Idaho. It was Idaho.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I was like,
Idaho.
what?
I don't know. Idaho, Ohio.
They're the same, Sarah.
Idaho, 1-horse town, Camion.
Idaho has mountains.
Well, yeah.
And rivers.
Idaho
does not have mountains. It maybe has.
Yes,
there's an
it
Ohio
does.
River Valley. Ohio has mountains?
No, you said Ohio has mountains, and you're saying Idaho.
Idaho does have mountains.
Yes.
Ohio does not.
I don't know. Idaho's by some mountains on the side.
Ohio's close to the Pacific Northwest, so there's got to be coldness and mountains.
Idaho. You said Ohio.
Idaho.
Let's move on.
Oh my God.
So some dick was there, and he said, "Some days there's 3 feet of snow on the ground."
Some dick was there?
Yeah, 10 days go by and there's 3 feet of snow on the ground. And I said, what the hell? We go 9 months with 3 feet of snow on the ground and more, you dick. That's nothing. Like, what? That would be great.
Minnesota
if there was just 3 feet of snow on the ground.
Kicks the shit out of Idaho.
Yeah, for 10 days, 3 feet of snow on the ground. We have just forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, no, that's not pulling me in yet, sir. So then we learn about a young lady named Teresa Jones, and she had hot glasses. Quite hot. The first glasses I saw, they were very rounded, and they were transition-y.
Because it was the 70s.
They were very tinted. But
people loved a tint on the glasses in the 70s.
Kind of, you looked like a porny pedophile, no matter what, in your tinted glasses in the 70s.
I was lucky. I was just born in 76.
No, I had some time.
I didn't yet have glasses in the 70s. So
you didn't have the porny pedophile look?
Yep.
So, but now I feel bad because I remember that Teresa did have a rare vision issue, but the tinted would not have helped.
No.
She just had issue with her peripheral vision.
Yeah.
So she couldn't see as well to the very side.
Right.
And so she would watch TV way up close, but I feel like every kid nowadays watches TV way up close.
I now have to watch TV way up close.
And all of us have to watch TV way up close.
Because now I'm blind.
So in 1976, she decides she wants to just break free from her family and be independent. She had a bunch of sisters. They were in Ohio. Remember? No way. That's right. And she says, I want to get out of fucking Ohio and go to Idaho. Oh, shit. So she has an Uncle Morris, and she moves with him to Idaho, and they're in an incredibly beautiful area, and she loves it there, so she doesn't want to move back. So even when Uncle Morris dies in 1981, he leaves everything he has, and he has like a little tiny cabin, and whatever else he has, he just leaves it all to Teresa. And she says, I'm just going to stay out here because she has made lots of friends. And she has a really close friend named Bonnie that was a very close neighbor, like lived within a couple hundred feet.
They were right next door. You could walk, you could see into each other's houses. And Teresa was living the high life in Idaho. She was catching fish, ice fishing, just like living off the land and loving it.
And Bonnie was like the norm from Cheers. They said Bonnie, everyone knew Bonnie, and Bonnie knew everybody.
Sometimes you want to go where Bonnie knows your name.
Okay. Did you care for Cheers? I feel like I did, but now I don't think I would watch it again.
When I had crippling postpartum depression. It was on at 3:00 in the morning when I couldn't sleep, and I watched.
Does it hold up?
I love it.
Okay.
But I loved Kirstie Alley.
I like that one, but yes. She was good on that.
She was hysterical.
So we get to December 26th. It's 1988. It's a good year too.
Yep.
So Bonnie is going to have like tea or something at her house with Teresa. This is a weekly thing where Teresa comes over. They have tea and crumpets. And
no, they don't. They have hardcore black coffee.
Well,
and they make scones.
Well, that's the
for
same
homemade
thing.
Homemade scones.
The exact same thing. Crumpets are scones, I think.
But it's not tea.
Well, they had tea and coffee are the same thing.
No.
And then they gossip about. They say,
gossip.
Did you know that Suzanne has gonorrhea?
Yeah.
And then they would be like, oh my God.
She got it from the Idaho potato drifter.
Yeah. Do you remember when, like, it's TV shows all the time, and they would say when they had to get their marriage license, they always had to get a blood test?
Yeah.
And was that to show like you didn't have the syph? Like to prove you didn't have all these gonorrhea and syphilis?
Right now.
And your husband had to prove that? And because you were supposed to be the woman was supposed to be a virgin. The husband would have to prove that he didn't have
it so that you knew
syphilis.
You weren't married. You weren't related.
Well, I would assume they would know they weren't related, but I think it was so you didn't.
It was.
You didn't have syphilis.
Blood tests were required for a marriage license to reduce the spread of syphilis.
Yes.
These laws were common in the early to mid 20th centuries, but they were repealed by the late 20th or early 21st century.
Because all TV shows, like they always, or soap operas, they always had to go get the blood test for their marriage license. So you didn't have the syph.
It was all about syphilis.
Yeah. Because everyone had syphilis.
Oh my God. And then they wouldn't let you get married until you got treated.
Right. And then found someone else because it was your brother or your cousin.
Apparently they didn't even care about genetics. It was just about syphilis.
I guess. Yeah. So they were saying that, Tammy had syphilis and couldn't marry Charles, but that's what they gossip about every week.
Yeah.
But Teresa was super late, and Teresa is not usually late because this is
because they literally live across like
100 feet from each other, and this is a good gossip. The gossip's good, so Teresa wouldn't miss it. So Bonnie looks out her window, just like maybe she's shoveling or something, and she's fucking around and is trying to come over. So she looks at her house, and the house is all dark, and there's not smoke coming from the chimney. So if you're in a cold ass, it's December, and it's colder than an asshole of Frosty the Snowman, and there's no smoke coming out of your chimney, and her only source of heat was her fireplace, you're fucked.
Right.
Like, you'll die. And then all your pipes freeze, and you're totally fucked.
Right.
So she was super worried. She calls at Teresa's house. Nobody answers. Now, this is where it's odd. She doesn't just go over there. She calls Ohio and says, is Teresa there? Which maybe makes sense because it's Christmas time. But I think she would know that Teresa was home because she would have just seen her. I don't know. But she calls Ohio and she says, is Teresa there? And then all her relatives, her siblings, her mother, they're like, no, she's not here. And
she seems to have a lot of them.
Yeah, tons of sisters.
A lot of them spoke up and said stuff.
And then right away, the sisters were like, oh my God, if something's wrong at her house, the fire's not there. They know, like, she's very, has set in her ways. That seems very weird. So the whole family knew something was up, and they right away all start planning to head to Idaho. Bonnie calls the police because she thinks she might not be able to get into the house. So the police come, and Bonnie is there and says, I need you to do a wellness check. Can you check on my neighbor? So the police come, and they knock on the door and are knocking and saying, Teresa, we're here. Are you there? Can you answer the door? We just want to check on you. No answer. Bonnie, though, has a key.
Yes, the neighbor
Bonnie
has a key.
Didn't just use the key originally to go into the home.
No.
to just check on her 20 minutes ago ahead of the police just to see if she's okay, if she hadn't fallen down and needed all this time.
I mean, I'm kind of glad that...
Well, I'm glad now she didn't. But what if she had tripped and like fallen, and now this is a half an hour of time that Bonnie could have used the key to go check on her. But okay. I didn't get that part. I said, Bonnie, you had the key in your pocket the whole time. Just walk 1 foot over. But police go in and it's very, very dark and it's colder than anything because it's 28 degrees in the home. That's cold ass. To a Minnesota outside at 28 degrees, we would be wearing shorts and a tank top.
Yes.
But in your home, it's awful.
Extreme.
And the pipes are frozen. So, I mean, it's just no water.
And that
things are popped. And
that's the, the worst thing that could happen is you never, when you live in the climate that we live in, you have to make sure your pipes and your walls don't freeze.
Then you're fucked.
Yeah. Because they literally break.
Yes. Explode.
And
then you just burn your house down and you move on.
You try. Yeah.
The house is frozen solid and the home is just tiny. They're walking through and they go to the bedroom and they make this horrific nightmare discovery because with their flashlights, because it's dark, there is blood everywhere. The walls are coated in blood and the ceiling from what they assume was cast off is just line after line after line after line after line of just blood lines. Blood. The walls are dripping blood. And on the bed
in multiple rooms.
Yeah.
Multiple rooms.
And then they turn back and look again at the hallway and there's blood smear on the hallway. But they look at the bed and there's a sleeping bag and they can tell something is underneath it. So they pull back the sleeping bag and there is Teresa Jones. She is underneath, laying faced up, and she's clearly deceased, but she was frozen solid due to it being in the 20s. Her face and her body were so badly beaten, but they could tell that it was her, but she was positioned just all nice and laid flat and positioned out and then covered up very neatly on the bed, which they thought was so odd. She wouldn't be that badly beaten, lay herself down like that and cover herself up and just die. Like the killer then did that part. And in the middle of her forehead was literally like a circular punch, like a circular hole that like it was punched through. Like if you punch through with a hole maker in your, they called it like a cookie cutter. And I'm like, no, that's
wasn't
not
a cookie cutter.
It's like if you took,
it's like if you have a hole
puncher and you punched it into her head. And then the worst thing, and they showed pictures of this, was enormous chunks of her hair were ripped out from her scalp. And I'm I'm
not a few
premenopausal
hairs.
And I lose my hair all over. This was like chunks of scalp and hair were all over, like huge ponytail worth, like chunks of hair from the roots, clumps in corners all over the floor, in the hallway. I mean, just horrifying. So all this blood is leading from the, there's blood all over the hallway. They think she must have been dead and still was beaten for blood to just keep coming out because there's so much blood that you had to be dead to lose this much blood and still have more blood coming out. They go into the bathroom and the bathroom is completely bloody. They show pictures. The sink is bloody. There's splatters of blood all over, but there is a neat pile of bloody bath towels and rags that looked like it was used to clean up. And they think they made... What? Oh. What did you do?
It was the snake.
Oh.
The snake came out.
Oh,
okay,
my God.
sorry. Why won't it be quiet?
Oh my God.
Oh my God. all of a sudden the snake video started playing, and I got
to
scared.
Take that off because everyone will drive off the highway.
The eastern brown snake.
Oh, good grief!
I don't know why it did that. Okay.
Oh my.
That was literally crazy. Okay.
So the killer not only is a monstrous asshole, he also made her clean up her own blood splatter. And then fold the towels and put them in a pile while she was being beaten. Like, she must have been just thinking, what in the hell is, like, how is this happening to me? Now, they're wondering, how did this murderer get in? Because there is a broken window, and her windows are sealed with heavy plastic. We do that in cold areas sometimes. You put plastic over it to also try to help keep some of the cold out of your home. So that is also a thing. They see fresh, heavy footprints outside her window, so they know there was a person walking around the windows. And Teresa was just 29 at the time. So the police end up calling her family back in Ohio and saying, telling her what happened. The relatives are already trying to rush their way to Idaho. There's another Uncle Dan who we see throughout the show. He's talking.
Yeah. But that's not we don't really know how he's the uncle.
No.
Like not the uncle that she lived with who died, obviously.
No. This one is alive.
Yeah.
So Uncle Dan, the first thing he says is, well, that house was built on an Indian burial ground, and it was haunted, and it should never have been built there. Well, sir, this is not poltergeist. There was not a skeleton in a pool that came up. There were not chairs that moved across the kitchen and jumped up on the dining room table. She was not attacked by a ghost. It was just a regular, horrific human being. They are worse enough. They are worse than the girl did get sucked into the TV, and that's pretty bad in Poltergeist, but
she did.
So the medical examiner sees her. Her brain was immensely swollen and incredibly bruised because of all of the multiple punches in her head. So her brain was bouncing back and forth so many times that's probably how she died. Just extreme brain bruising.
Trauma.
Yeah. The hole in the center of her forehead, they're still not sure because it's not a bullet wound. It's like a puncture. So they feel like she had been dead for 5 days.
Because that's what they thought. They thought like it looked like a hole, like a bullet went through, but there's no bullet.
So it's like someone.
They're just like someone
poked a hole in her
head. Yeah.
But it's a big hole, like a dime size.
Right.
She died on the 21st. She was found on the 26th.
Right.
So she had been dead in that home for 5 days with no smoke, obviously coming out of the chimney. What was Bonnie doing? Couldn't Bonnie have seen this no smoke for that time? Would none of her friends checking on her?
It was Christmas. Maybe she was gone at somebody else's house or her.
Don't you go to your neighbor
grandparents
that's your best friend and give her a card at least? I don't know. I feel like maybe someone should have checked on the girl.
I don't know.
I feel angry about that.
My neighbors are.
I don't know any of my neighbors, and I never would have checked on them, but I'm not their friends. I don't consider myself their friend at all. If I was their friend, I would.
You would? Okay.
So the the police say, I think the crime was personal. Well, probably someone who beats someone to death. That usually might be personal, or I don't know. This was so awful. The police, though, question all of Teresa's friends. Again, why didn't you check on her for 5 days?
I don't know.
Uncle Dan says this, too, which, I was confused. Oh, Bonnie lives right there. Not much escapes Bonnie. Apparently, it does,
A lot escaped
Bonnie. Lots went by Bonnie. Bonnie might have been blind. Bonnie maybe was Mary Ingalls changing her name and going to Idaho. Bonnie didn't do shit. Bonnie didn't know shit. And Bonnie made everything up. And Tina maybe never had syphilis. Charles maybe never had gonorrhea, and she's making all this shit up the whole time. Bonnie is just straight trash.
Bonnie.
She didn't know what she was doing.
She tried to take care.
Bonnie didn't know her ass from her puss.
She tried.
She didn't try shit.
She called and said,
and she had a goddamn key and she didn't even go in.
Please help Teresa.
No, she was trying to hit on the police officers or something.
No.
I don't know.
Okay.
But Bonnie says, I didn't see nothing unusual. Come on. You were looking at the house for 5 days and she didn't see there was no smoke.
She was maybe gone.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe she went to Minnesota for the holidays and came back and was like, there's no heat coming out of there. And I know that she doesn't have a
no
furnace.
mention of Bonnie going on any kind of trip to Paris at this time. So another person says they saw Teresa walking with an unknown man in a snowstorm. And he was very tall. He had a slender build. He had long hair and he had sideburns. So he was a tall drink of water. I don't know. People.
But then they also said, but it was a blizzard, so I couldn't see good because there's snow in my eyes.
Right. Yeah. Who knows? So people, though, said that there was a Native American sir that they just didn't care for because he was kind of like he would have a bad temper. His name was Joseph Arthur.
Some guy.
And the whole town hated him.
That they didn't really like. Yeah.
And so the police went up there, and this guy, Joseph Arthur, in the show, he looks like another porn actor, and he has some sort of a porn fur jacket on. And he has transitions on. And the investigators say, did you go and kill that girl? And he says, not me. And then they said, well, he's known to have a very bad temper, and they're going to look into his alibi. And so, they're really just questioning him because people kind of, I don't know, the one Native American in the town, I don't know. But he's kind of done some weird, he had, I don't know, was it stealing or something he did, made someone angry? Or was he a peeping Tom? I don't know. Something
no,
weird
they just
he
said
did.
he got mad sometimes.
Well, who doesn't? So then the authorities learned from Bonnie. I wouldn't write it down, sirs. Mm-hmm. They learned from Bonnie that Teresa was dating a wannabe country singer named right there. Conway Twitty. No.
You guys, she was dating.
She was dating Conway Twitty. She was dating a wannabe country singer named George Porter.
Yes.
George Porter was from Washington State, and they were dating on and off.
Right.
But they would be seen in kind of like local pubs and bars together. He would be up there playing, his songs, and she would be in the audience watching, and then they would kind of hang out and have a few drinks. So when questioned, George Porter tells the police, like, oh, yeah, I saw her at a bar around Christmas time. She was at a party several days before Christmas, and he says he's staying with a friend in a nearby town. And then they're like, she's dead. And he goes, oh, in the show, he kind of just says, oh, gosh, and just rubs his jaw. And he says, well, I had nothing to do with that. And then they show kind of the party, and it looks like people are dancing like they put a big hot stick in their anus. Their legs are I don't know, the dancing looks so horrible. Like their knees are going way up to their tits and they're dancing. Did you see the dancing at the background in that party?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was weird.
But they were all like at a Tony bar.
Yes.
Right?
Having a Christmas party.
Yeah.
So Porter is still on the suspect list, even though he says he was in another town and that he saw her several days before she was killed. They look deeper into her dating history, and she's been dating this other guy called Dale Cooper. And so when they show Dale Cooper, he looks exactly like a member of that Muppet band with Animal as the drummer. Like he looks like he would be in that band, Dale Cooper.
Dale.
He looks like a Muppet, like Dr. T's by whatever that band is, where Animal's a drummer, and who's the woman? Janice. He would be in that band, the Muppet Band.
He had like a curly.
He was a very much
dread
mess.
Yeah.
He looked like he had been sleeping under a dumpster for a month, and probably was. They show a like flashback in the show of them at a bar, and Dale and Teresa are arguing, and she says, "You're drunk, and I paid for all these drinks." And he's like, "I just want another drink." And she said, "I'm so tired of supporting you." And she gets up and leaves.
Yeah,
so it's like she's mad at him, and he would be mad that she's not buying him another drink. Police go back to the crime scene. They're trying to focus on what gave her that circular poke in her head. They take the fireplace poker into evidence by the wood stove because it's an iron rod with a big ass point at the end. They feel like that was what was jammed into her head. I mean, that would be, you'd have that jammed into your head. That would kill you alone,
yes.
I think, because those are massive, sharp ass things that everyone with a fireplace has.
Right.
There's no physical evidence on it, though. The poker doesn't have anything on it. They look at Dale Cooper again, the guy in the Muppet Band, and he says that she ended it, but they were friends, but he became very possessive and volatile. And by possessive, they mean he threatened to burn her house down a couple of times, threatened to kill her.
Oh.
That's what they mean.
That's what that means.
So,
okay.
What? Oh, Dale, we don't do that. Go play with the Muppet Band. Meanwhile, there's this weird ass woman called Terry Davis, not Jan Terry.
No,
Jan Terry, the legendary singer.
God,
it's
she is
Terry
legendary.
Davis. Terry Davis goes to the police and says, Dale Cooper, the guy in the Muppet Band who looks like he sleeps under a dumpster, had gone elk hunting illegally at the same time all this happened. And at that time of year, it was illegal. And he gave her a pair of super bloody gloves. Was his story.
I don't wanna lose you tonight.
Terry's song.
Baby, you're the only thing that matters.
And so on these bloody gloves, she says, were long strands of hair. And so for some reason, the story is Dale Cooper tells this Jan Terry Davis that he's illegally elk hunting, gives her randomly bloody, hairy gloves.
Yeah.
So Terry Davis tells this to the police, and police told her to keep the gloves. But then they go back to Terry, and the gloves are now gone. And they say, Terry, where are these bloody gloves? And Terry says, well, gosh, I put the gloves on a snowman in the front yard.
Obviously.
And so you put bloody gloves. Hairy gloves that were used, you think, to kill a woman on your snowman in your front yard?
Yep.
And then she says, I guess Dale Cooper came and he just took them back. And the police are like, okay. So they go back to Dale Cooper, and Dale Cooper says, we were together that night. We had sex and we had a fight, and I did kill her. So he confesses. The police are like, what the hell? So he says, well, she hit her head. She hits her head on the stove. So I carry her to her bed, and I put her in her bed. And so they're like, all right. None of it matches anything in the scene.
No.
So Teresa's family is like, bullshit. That confession doesn't make sense. No one can find these supposed bloody snowman gloves. All of this doesn't match anything. Then police eventually learn that Terry Davis is a crazy ass bitch, and she has super bad mental health issues. They never checked her out. She just came and made up the whole story. Well, of course. And then they look, Dale Cooper's story was totally made up, and which makes sense because Dale Cooper is 4'11", 120 pounds.
Yes.
And he was way too tiny to do this because Teresa was bigger than him to throw her all over the place and beat her up.
This Idaho town seems, after you hear them talk about like the suspects and who they eliminated, it seems like a very strange place.
It does. It seems like a very strange place.
Yeah.
So then they go, Dale Cooper, why did you confess? And he says, well, there was a PI that tracked me down. And she confused me. Confused me. And so they look again at the tape of the PI interviewing him. And she totally did like just lead him into confessing. And then they look and his IQ is like 40.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, God. I mean, like literally.
It was not 40, but it was very low.
It was low.
It was a low IQ. And they're like, you cannot coerce this person.
And then they learned Dale like had an alibi the whole time.
Yeah.
And so this was total waste of time.
Sad. Yeah.
You know, that he went through all this. Yeah. So he's obviously
he did not do it.
Yeah, not at all. So now they're back to square one. And this young witness, a 12-year-old girl, comes forward and says the night of the murder, she sees a man.
She's playing outside.
Yeah. In Teresa's house where she's playing with her friends and he was yelling at her, but she heard gunshots. And they're like, fuck it. There's not a gun.
No.
There wasn't a gun. So they're like, fuck you, kid. Get fucked. And then another tip comes in. This one, though, a waitress says, I was working in the pubs in the town. I was working in one of the pubs. I was working at Fish Dicks or whatever the pub. And Teresa Jones, she comes running in. And this was 10 days before her death.
Yes.
She was shaken. She was afraid. She was almost crying. And she says, George Porter, he was threatening me. And he was saying he's going to beat me up and kill me. Well, Teresa tells me I got to call the police. Then George comes into the bar. But I called the police. George left the bar real fast. Then one of the officers comes in and he takes Teresa home. Doesn't one of the officers remember this? It's 10 days before, 15 days before.
Wanted to throw shit at the TV at this point. I'm like, why is it taking this long?
Yeah, the woman should have it's not her job to come forward, but she did. Shouldn't the officer that took her home and knew the whole story?
Right.
And it gets worse than this for the officer.
But
couldn't he recall this?
Growing up in a small town, there's only one fucking town cop.
Yes. So how
did this get missed?
So now the officer takes Teresa home. He literally goes into the home with her. That's great. He goes in because he knows there's a crazy man that has been threatening her and she's terrified.
That's the right thing
very
to do,
good.
Town cop.
He goes in with her. He searches the whole home. They get into the bedroom and there is George Porter in her bed, laying in her bed.
Laying in the bed.
And so the cop says, get up and go out. And Teresa says, get up, leave. She says, I don't want you here anymore. I don't want you living here anymore and leave your key. And so the officer is also like, makes him get up, get dressed and make sure he leaves his key. It's also a twin bed. Like that's
it was
tiny
small.
Bed.
Yeah.
So why the officer should have recalled this whole situation with George Porter? 2, I think. Sooner, maybe. I don't know.
Because didn't they call her parents in the meantime and say, sorry, this is so hard we can't find anyone?
Exactly. It was taking
the whole
a while.
time
it's right in
the
front of them.
town cop was like, yeah, I fucking was there that night.
And then Teresa's own sister on the show says Teresa was very gullible. So maybe this is how she thought women were supposed to be treated. Or maybe she had such a low self-esteem that she just had all these men that treated her so bad. Like she had Dale Cooper that constantly was saying he was going to burn her house down and kill her. She had, her boyfriends were just shitty. In other words,
I couldn't tell if that meant she was like a vulnerable.
I have a feeling she maybe was a vulnerable adult,
but it seemed like a lot of the players in this
were.
Yes.
So the sister's point was Teresa finally got some balls and stood up for herself and said, I'm not living my life with some dick bossing me around and treating me like shit anymore. Get out. And she was just saying, she took, she said, fuck you, and was standing up for herself. And her sister was like, that I was so proud that she did that.
Right.
Bonnie, I guess, also the entire time had witnessed George Porter's abuse on Teresa. Like at one point they had been on Bonnie's porch and George hit her and knocked so hard he knocked her literally out of her slippers. Like he punched her so hard her whole body lifted up out of her slippers, flew into the air and landed onto the ground.
Yeah.
So because of that, Teresa filed like a restraining order and it got passed.
Yes.
So police go back to that neighbor.
So again, they have a restraining order against this person. And he wasn't the first person.
No, because I mean, what are you going to do?
That they looked at, or they just ruled him out right away because he was like, I was at a friend's house.
He could be a big star.
Oh.
Police go back to the neighbor that saw Teresa walking with the tall drink of water sideburns. And she said, well, it was around 6 to 6:30. And so they show her a bunch of picture of dicks and she points out George Porter.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it was her walking with this fucking dick. So another truck driver comes forward and says he picked up George Porter with a guitar case on December 21st. And so the police think, we got to find that guitar case, because if it was with George and he was in the house doing the crime, the guitar case might have evidence, meaning blood, all over it. So police get a search warrant for George Brothers' house, because that's where he was staying. They find the guitar case, and what do you know? It has blood and hair and gore all over the fucking guitar case because the dick doesn't even clean it off.
But Sarah, what did he say it was? Well, how did the blood get there?
She just had a nosebleed and she was on her way to the bathroom and it kind of got onto the guitar case. And then they said, well, a nosebleed doesn't spray splatter all over your, it doesn't spray splatter out of your nose like and go all over the place. Oh my God. Like it was blood splatter all over in her. You don't lose your hair in chunks all over your guitar when you're not when
you have a nose.
It's not nose hair.
No.
I mean, it was awful. So the police are like, well, if all this gore is on your guitar case was in the home and you were with the guitar case, you were in the home. And so what they think happened is that she kicks him out with the officer leaves. George sweet talks himself maybe back inside or goes to the window or something or whatever. Even with he wants her to drop the restraining order. And she says, no, fuck you. And he loses it. And that's when he just beat her to death. And police believe that then maybe that's when he went through the window, because he goes back the next day because he forgot something, they think. And then he finds her that, oh, fuck, she died. I beat her so bad she fucking died. I think he left her. I mean, she had to have been dead when he.
Yeah.
I mean, but he just didn't pay attention. So he carries her to her bed and covers her up. So and then leaves again.
Covers her face.
Yes.
Covers her whole body.
So police arrest George Porter. And at the trial, his ex-wife and a million ex-girlfriends come forward and say, well, at one time, he threw me out of a moving truck going 50 miles per hour. That was one ex-girlfriend. One he beat so severely with his belt buckle. Four of them stated he pulled out enormous clumps of their hair when he would get mad, just like her. And then Porter at one point yelled, I'm innocent. It was Dale Cooper. And they're like, no. So the jurors all said guilty. He's sentenced to death in 1990. But 25 years later, he's released. Because they also then say his IQ was too low for him to be executed. What? How was he playing music and be able to manipulate people
and
like
being
that?
a songwriter and a country
no, it's not.
artist?
And maybe don't execute him, but keep him in jail.
Yeah.
He viciously beat a woman to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he could play and write music and all this, maybe I think he doesn't have a low IQ.
He beat the shit out of several women.
I think you can keep him in jail.
Yeah.
So this release devastates her family.
Yeah.
And so he was paroled in 2013 and is just hanging out somewhere, beating up more girls.
Yeah, it wasn't even just transferred from death penalty to life in prison.
They're like, I guess has IQ.
He's too low to be.
We're going to let him out. Don't they think they could maybe lie on that or something?
Well, I don't know, but he beat his other wife and girlfriends
constantly
too. And
constantly
did the same thing, pulled their hair out.
Yes.
What is wrong?
I don't know. This guy is a straight up piece of shit.
He really was. And
I hate him.
I don't know. I like to think living off the land and living in a small town is nice, but this place seemed
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, that's our story. Horrible story for this week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. It's also our book club on Tuesday.
I think yes.
I
don't know.
What date would that be?
I have no clue.
Check my calendar. It's Tuesday the 28th.
I see.
It'll be at 7:30 Central Standard Time. I will put the Zoom link on our Facebook group. So if you read, what was our book this month? Behind Closed Doors. I'm not finished with it yet, but I am reading it. I'm in the middle. So hopefully I'll get it done by Tuesday.
I hope so. You better.
It seems similar to the last Mrs. Parrish, maybe? Or am I not that far in yet?
No, it's some differences.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Interesting. Anyway, join us. Join our Facebook group. You can always join our Patreon.
Yeah.
And we would love to have you and give you shout outs. And we're going to have a new Patreon episode coming up as well.
Yeah, we are.
Oh my God, we're doing it. Bye.